Hey, what's up, y'all? Today, I'm working on a few Tamarind Bonsai projects. This is a tropical species I grew from seed, and it's been a real test to figure out what helps them thrive and what makes them struggle. Even though these have not been the easiest trees for me to keep alive, the bark and the leaf shape make keeping them worth the effort. All right, now, let's get into it. So here are my remaining tamarind trees. I started them from seeds I got years ago in New York City. Back then, you can find candied tamarinds in little packs at corner stores and bodegas. I'd eat the candy, and each one had a seed inside. I grew some of the seedlings in my New York City apartment, and some I brought down to Florida to grow in my mother's yard. The ones that grew outside year-round grew thicker trunks, while the ones I kept with me in my New York City apartment struggled and died off one by one. What you see here are the survivors. The last remaining New York City seedling, the one with the twisted trunk, eventually died this summer, but the 3 Florida seedlings are still pushing along. Here are the tools I'll be using for today's work. Bonsai tweezers, pruning shears in a few sizes, a concave cutter, a metal chopstick, a root rake, a spoon, bonsai pliers, and wire cutters. So first things first, let's discard the dead tamarind so I can reuse the bonsai training pot. Now here's the first tamarind I'll be working on. I trunk chopped this one last fall before bringing it inside for the winter, and it just sat there as a bare stump for months with no leaves. But finally, within the last couple of months, it's pushing out some new growth. I found that these tamarinds don't bounce back as easily as, say, a ficus or some of my other tropicals. Looking at the root system here, it isn't great, but it's not terrible either. I'll clean it up, trim away the downward roots, and get it back in its pot. And I'm not going to prune the top today. I want to keep as much foliage as possible so it can build strength for the rest of the NC growing season. Next up is a more vigorous tamarind that I also trunk chopped last fall. However, this one came back stronger. The first thing I'm going to do is remove the wires I had on the trunk. I wanted movement, and now it's got plenty of twist in the shape. Now let's get it out of this pot and rake out the roots. I can see there's a strong taproot growing straight down that I need to remove. Cutting through it is tough because the wood is dense. Let's get that sorted, then trim back any of the thicker roots. Like the first tamarind, I'm leaving the canopy alone. I want the leaves to keep powering growth. The experience I've had thus far with this species is that it doesn't seem to tolerate heavy top work the way others do. So I'm keeping all the foliage until it builds more vigor. Now here's a tall tamarind I have tied together as a fusion project. Upon further inspection, I can see that the trunks never actually fused. They're just sitting close together. So I've decided to separate them. Here are a mess, long, knotted, and not much happening near the base. I'll cut them back hard, almost to nubs, to see if I can force new feeder roots. Honestly, I don't think these are going to survive. One of them may already be dead, but I'll pot them deep, water them in, and give them a chance. If any survive, I'll trunk chop them down hard in the future to rebuild low branching. So you may be asking why I even bother with tamarinds since they can be so tricky. Well, the leaves remind me of the beautiful Brazilian rain tree, but without those nasty thorns that species grows. They also resemble the honey locust trees I used to see growing up on New York City sidewalks, with that same feathery look. On top of that, tamarind bark gets old and gnarly early, which makes for a great bonsai texture. That combination of fine leaves and rugged bark is why I keep working with them. Here's a patio table with today's work finished. One tamarind still recovering from its big chop, another root pruned and reset for more growth, and the trees of the fusion project, separated and root pruned hard. And that's part of the balance with bonsai. Sometimes you push hard, sometimes you play it safe. With tamarinds, I've learned to be rough when I need to, but also to respect that this species may not bounce back as readily as ficus. That's it for now. I'd love to know if you've grown any unique tropical species. What's been your experience with developing them into bonsai? Drop a comment and let me know. And I'll see you next time.